Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome back to the Art of Paul Apps. Now in this video I want to do a watercolor for you guys, but more than that I really fancy doing some line work, so I'm going to make this one an ink and wash study, a seascape. Now seascapes are beautiful wherever you go in the world, but I don't have access to anywhere in the world, unfortunately. I wish I did, but for me one of the best places to go for seascapes is Cornwall. I absolutely love the county. I've done quite a bit of painting down there in the past, a lot of plein air, and I do not need many excuses to get back down there and do even more, in Clarabelle especially. Kynance Cove in Cornwall. It's a lovely place. I've done many paintings there in the past, and I felt that the one that I've chosen for this demonstration lends itself to not only some ink work but also a lovely watercolor. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera down and we're going to crack on and see how this one turns out. Catch you all at the other end. Okay everybody, now before we get started, just a quick little word about some of the materials we're using on this demonstration. First and foremost then, the paper, it's Bao Hong, and it is a hot press paper, and it's a full cotton paper, and moreover it is also a block of paper, which is great because I don't have to tape it down and hold it rigid. It will just sit there until it's dry, and I'll release it and get ready for the next painting after that. It's a 9x12, and I think this paper is really lovely. I've been using it pretty much exclusively for the last year, I think, possibly even longer. I don't know, I can't remember. Okay, so let's talk about some of the methods that you can employ doing an ink and wash very quickly. There are several approaches that you can make. The first and foremost, if you're not confident about your drawing, then I would suggest that you go in with a pencil, make your sketch, and then you can do one of two things. You can either ink up that sketch and then you can do your watercolor, or you can do your watercolor on your pencil sketch and then do the inking up. There are other permutations. You can actually do the drawing, the inking up, do your watercolor, and you can go back in with ink if you feel that you need to do a little bit more work with the pen afterwards. All of these things are open to you. If, however, you are really confident about your drawing skills and you don't mind even just a few niggly bits that may go wrong, and I've done them myself many times, where you do a drawing straight in with the pen and you think, no, I can't change it, the pen's there, it's a done deal, but you just carry on and it becomes part of the painting. It becomes the honesty within the painting, and that I feel is important, that you are honest with yourself, you're honest with your artwork, and you sort of go in there, and if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. It can't always be helped, and it can't always be overcome. Sometimes it can, and if it does, good luck. That's great. Anyway, for ease of today, I am going to be doing a pencil drawing first. Then I will do my inking up, and then I will do my watercolor. And that's the way I'm going to approach this one. Now you've got the waves at this distance. This lot all look as though they're pretty much on the same line. The water is almost in a straight line, not quite, but it's almost in a straight line. And I've noticed a lot of waves that come crashing in on this one and really explode in a burst of foam as it comes past. This particular picture, there's not too much of that going on. But, you know, there we are. That's pretty much our drawing done. Now, if you want to put in a lot more detail, be my guest. You can do. You can put in whatever you want to. It is, at the end of the day, your piece of work, your painting. It's your enjoyment. It's your journey. So make as much or as little as you want. All right, okay, let's get on. Ink. The pen that I'm using is a I think it's FWR from America, but it's got a lovely flexible nib, and that's why I use it. And I've got loads of pens, don't get me wrong. I've got pens for more than every finger for every day. I just a little bit of a hoarder when it comes to pens and types thereof. but I do gravitate to a couple that I enjoy, and this is one of them. And the ink I use is platinum carbonate ink. I have used many, and I've got others. I've got the Atramentis, which is a lovely ink too. I just like the blackness of the carbon ink, so that's what I'm on. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of line work, shall we? I'm not following even all my pencil, really. I'm just going to come down here and pay due regard to some of the shapes. That's fine. And if I do miss out on something, I'm not overly worried. The rock is a beautifully jagged rock, and I'm first and foremost going to come down and pretty much just do the outline, the little flat part there, and we're going to come up. That's another thought. If you come down like I did there, too far down with the ink pen, don't worry about it. It could be a fissure, and you know there is a fissure down through there. I went back up, I put that little bit of line out in there, and I just come across with a new top, and I come back down here, and I'm going to come back up there, and it's a little bit like a pyramid type shape there, and a mini pyramid there, and just going to come over the top with that part there. Although I'm paying a lot of attention to the drawn lines that I've made with the pencil, I am free to sort of just go and miss a few bits out and add a few bits here and there. In other words, I don't have to be a slave to the pencil marks. They were merely a guide, an indication that I could use when it comes to doing the inking up. And I'm using a whole raft of different marks. I do primarily a lot of scribbling. I put the primary marks in on the outlines, as it were, the outline lines. But I also start to do some hatching, some cross hatching in places. And the idea of that is it allows me to suggest different depths of dark, different degrees of heaviness in the surface of the rock. Now here it was easier to turn the paper on its side because it's a natural rhythm to the movement of my arm and my wrist. So if you do find a bit of restriction and you've got a bit of an odd angle to do, then just turn the paper around to suit you. There's nothing wrong with that. It really does help. All I'm doing now is coming down and adding some of the depths and the darks within the fissures of the rocks, and one or two bits of detail on the top of the hill, as well as the rocks in the foreground right in the center of the subject. I need to come in here and splash. So I'm doing some jiggly bits. That's a new term, technical term, jiggly bits. And you know, we've got nice bits of dark in here, but the jiggly bits, what I'm doing is I'm using the edges of the pen to eat into the rock to suggest the movement of water, and that's a very, very useful device as well. So I'm coming back in this way now, and I'm creating some darker fissures that are going to come down and touch my jiggly bits. and yeah, so there you go. And sorry about that. And I'm just going to bring some of these this way. So we're coming to the end of certainly drawing the rocks, and I'm just putting a bit of detail into these middle ground rocks. There's a lot of light on these, so I don't want to go too heavy with the pen. Certainly not. Only around the bases where the water is evident and it's sort of wet and darker. Now I'm putting a few skimpy little marks in to suggest the waves, the horizon line, and some of the waves coming in. And lastly, just drying off the ink. As I said, it needs to be thoroughly dry. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to get on with the color. I'm going to use my red dot series from Rosemary and Company. Now, if you want to buy any brushes from Rosemary and Company, they're all handmade, but they do cut out the middleman, so they don't cost you the earth to do and buy them and invest in them. And they're really beautiful brushes. Been using them for well over 20 odd years now. And these red dot ones are non-animal hair. They are synthetic, but they are a beautifully made brush. Rosemary did a lot of research to find the filament that would mimic animal hair as best as possible, and she did a tremendous job. These I've been using pretty much all the time for the last 4-5 years maybe, and they're still good. A couple of them are showing signs that they're getting a bit tired, but hey, they still keep going, still keep delivering, so that's great. But if you do buy any, Then at checkout, you'll see a bit where you can put an affiliate link. Please put my name in Paul Apps in unbroken capitals. That would do me a favor. Doesn't cost you any more. It just helps me out, and that would be fantastic. All right, so nice, fresh, clean water. And then we can come in with our blue. My blue of choice is pretty much going to be some cobalt, but to the cobalt I always throw in a little bit of phthalo blue to go in there as well. But make sure you mix up enough. There's so many times I tell my students, you know, you run out of paint, and it's not easy to judge it, but you can run out of paint and cause yourself a lot of problems, especially on a dry day. So let's just pre-mix. Always try and plan well with the watercolor. So planning, I mean mixing all your colors up, choosing the ones you want and mixing them up in advance. Now the color that I'm going to mix up is a little bit of red, just a soft red, and that is a little bit of magenta and a little bit of yellow, just to put in at the very base. Very, very thin, hardly any color to that at all. Right, let's get on. You can suggest clouds quite easily like this. You can have some nice wispy clouds that will actually help your painting long term. I'm not going to bring too much in over there. I'll bring in a little bit of warmth in here to our color, and just bring that down through there like that. Doesn't really matter because of course we are going back in. I put some wet in there. Look at that. That is potentially a problem for me. I hope it's not too much. It could well be, but we'll live with that and we'll worry about that later on. I've got to be patient and let that dry up though before I do any more. I'm going to use the hairdryer and we'll come back on it. Okay, everybody, well, I'm going to put my hands up and tell you that I've actually made a very bad error. It's a schoolboy error. Should have known better. I put a second lot of pigment on here because I've been pretty dry in here creating that dry brush effect with the clouds. I put too much water in the next slot and it started pushing against it. Now I could leave it, that's for sure, or I could try and get myself out of it. How would I do that? Well, I could re-wet the whole area and go in with another wash. That's one way. Or I could come over here, which I'm intending to do, and see if I can't backwash it and get rid of some of it and flush it out. Now that may not happen, but I think it's worth giving it a go. So what I'm going to do is re-wet this area completely and see if I can't minimize some of the problem that has occurred. This may be a very bad mistake. All right, it may work, it may not. I'm simply trying to lift out what I've got going on here. It's evened up this area. Have a look at that. It has evened up the area, and I've got to count my luck and say I think we just about got away with that. And it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was a few minutes ago. So that was one way through. Okay, so I think it's now dry enough that we can carry on without too much of a worry. I'll put a little bit that's mixed up, so I'm going to put that little bit of magenta back in the top of this mix. There you go. And I'm going to come in here now and very carefully work my sea. Very strong pigment against the sky and very dark, much darker than this in a sense, but we're going to live with that. Now I'm going to work down, and as I come down I'm going to change the color, but I'm going to leave little taps of white all over the show, especially around the bases of the rocks, because that white water is evident all the way through and we've got that nice dark edge. So your biggest ally when painting water, sea, river or anything is your white paper. By leaving little areas of white paper popping through your color, you suggest light and waves and forms on your water surface. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm going through a series of blues with a bit of red in, then going to pure cobalt, then adding some cobalt teal, and finally adding a more of a grayer tone with some lavender, just to get that sort of superficial color into the very shallow water, right into the sand. All right, I'm going to leave a little bit of white around the very edge of my line, and I'm trying to make my little patterns a wee bit smaller as they go away from me along the beach here. We're going to come back over that once it's dry, but we're going to put our light parts of the rock in first and let them dry off. And take that all the way through there, avoiding the very bottoms where I've left the white paper to suggest the water. All right, and there's a lot of warmth and a little bit more of the sienna into that one, catching that beautiful sunlight glow. To enhance that sunlight, I use quite a warm light mixture on the rocks, and I'm going to go back in later with the darks to enhance the heavy parts of the areas of shadow. Indian yellow makes a nice fresh looking green. I'm going to temper that though with a little bit of red. Now it can be any red. I'm just putting in just a little bit of cadmium red, or vermilion in this case. I'm just going to come across here and put in our grass. So once again, the color of the grass is quite a light value. A very bright green is used, so that allows me to put some darker greens in later. Also a light color for the sand. I also went in with a bit of lavender in that warm color just to enhance the areas of wet sand around the surf. That's it, that's done. I'll leave that alone. So we've got a suggestion of a wave coming in, and I want to put in a little bit more of the greenish yellow color. I'm going to use a lot of yellow ochre. Sorry about this, I'll put my teeth back in. And a little bit of greenish color into that as well. It's not quite the full ochre. So I want to come in here and suggest that little underpinning of the wave or wavelet coming in through there. A little taps along here as it sort of bubbles and comes into shore. I used a violety mix of blues and alizarin with a soft bit of yellow just to enhance the waves that are a bit further out. They're a bit darker, a bit heavier, but nothing too strong. I didn't want to go too mad with it. And a little bit of darker greens on that area on the top of the cliff. I don't know why that happens to be darker or even a different color temperature of green back there, but it certainly is. I'll take that up to there. Then I'm going to come back with a little bit more acidity. Almost like there's a plant that's growing through that area. It does look quite mossy. I don't know if that's the reason or not. But anyway, there we go. Lots of little greens on our lovely hillside. So that's done. You don't need to do any more. All I've got to do now is really get the darts going on for our stones, our rocks. So I'm going to mix up as much as I can get going. A little bit more of the indigo into that. Make that darker. But I said to you, it's a really rich, sort of dark, warm color. Even a little bit of red going in there. A little bit of umber going into that. The dark color that I actually mixed was quite a warm one. I didn't want it too cool. I didn't want a blue tint to it. I wanted quite a warm tint to it, and that's what I actually used. But however, the rocks in the center of the picture I felt were going away, and I lifted a bit of color out later and put a bit of lavender in there, as you can see right now, just to suggest that those particular rocks are between and beyond the ones in the main picture and are further away. I think there's enough light going on there. Once that dries, hopefully that'll be fine. So there you go. One ink and wash of Kynance Cove complete. It's not perfect, and it didn't go without a problem. As I said, that area through there was a school by error, and I made it, and I shouldn't have done. But I showed you, or at least described to you, a couple of ways you could get out of it. I used one of them, and I think we got away with it, and I'm very, very happy at that. Now, I always do it in my paintings. I'm not going to change now. I'm going to put in a little bit of a seagull or two, and I'm going to, over here, I think above this area, I'm going to put in a couple of birds. Just add a little bit of life to the painting. I always... Okay, so last look at this. Do I need to do any more inking? Well, I think I could, but I'm not going to. I'm quite happy with the outcome, and I really had a lot of fun painting this one. So I'm going to say it's a win. I'm going to walk away from it. I have got to sign it though. We'll make a little signature, and I will paint the signature on. Okay, everybody, there you go. One ink and wash painting of Kylan's Cove finished. Tape is off. You can see the big reveal, and I've signed it. It's all done. And as I said earlier, it didn't go without a problem. There was a major hiccup near the beginning when I put that sky on. I gave you options how to get out of it, and I chose one of them, and yes, I got out of it. And I'm taking that as a win because it worked out beautifully in the end, and you wouldn't have known that there was ever or had been an issue with it. So I'm really, really pleased at the outcome of that. But yeah, have a go at this one yourselves. I will try, I will make sure that my schools, both of them, if you are a member of either the $15 or the $5 one, will have the reference to this on it, so you can actually have a go at it yourself. And the lineup will be there as well, should you need that. So with that all said and done, if you've enjoyed this video and you like my work and you like what I do, then why not give it a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon and the notification tab. It alerts you every time I upload a new video, and I'm going to try and make them more regularly than I have done in the last year. I'm going to try and get back to, I'm not going to say one a week, but it would be nice for one every 2 weeks, and that is my aim for the foreseeable future. So if I can do that, that'll be fantastic. And as I say, if you want to see the full version of this, it will be over on my wildlife and landscape painting school. You're welcome to get involved with that if you want to. And if you don't want to do any of those things, but you fancy doing a little bit more to help me out on the channel, then you can always happily buy me a coffee. And the link for that and the schools and everything else are in the show more tab underneath this video and other videos that I make. And that would be fantastic if you want to help me out that way. Every penny that I make in that fashion all go back into buying new materials, new paint, new paper, petrol for Clarabelle, all these things. It does add up. And I don't charge for the YouTube videos, but any help from people, it really does go a long way. So thank you very much in advance if you want to do that. So it just remains for me to say cheerio. Enjoy your own version of this. Enjoy your painting. Have fun. Stay safe wherever you are. I'll catch each of you in the next video coming very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.